ridiculous.
Well, here's the thing.
Maybe. Sometimes.
Tell me about this. I want to know more.
Oh, yeah. No.
Holy cow.
We've had a lot of fun.
So this month of, last month, I guess it is now, of August was our most downloaded month ever on the Parenting Roundabout podcast. So thank you to all our listeners who have been downloading it. And as a result of my relentless and oppressive tweeting. Thank y'all. Maybe if I punch this, she'll start tweeting about something else. But it's exciting to see the numbers go up, and we're very happy that people are listening and enjoying it. And please continue and subscribe and comment and rate us in the iTunes store and all that good stuff, so that more people can find out about it and we can feel validated in the amount of time we spend recording and tweeting.
Absurd. Wouldn't that be something?
Yeah, we're working on it. How many potential sponsors' names can we mention? Although I'm listening to a lot of podcasts lately, and I'm hearing a lot of sponsored ads, and some of them I think I would just turn down the money. But but then again, who knows? If you're a sponsor and wondering, give us a call. Well, on that note, hello and welcome to Parenting Roundabout, a weekly podcast about the things that parents are talking about, obsessing about, and complaining about right now. I'm Terri Morrow, and I'm having one of those weeks where time seems to be going very, very fast, and things seem to be getting done very, very slow. We'll see how this podcast turns out. With me today are Catherine Oleko. How's it going for you this week, Catherine?
Well, school starts tomorrow.
Oh, lucky you.
Yeah.
All right, lucky you or stressed you?
No, I'm ready. Let's go.
You're like that Staples commercial, you're dancing down the aisles.
Yeah, just about.
And Nicole Erdix, what's going on in your part of the world?
Editing and more editing.
Oh, the track changes.
Book.
Yes, the book is still, yes, we're still working on it. So, yeah.
Have
But
you been doing it?
I have to say, I have a great editor, so I'm feeling very good. Yeah.
Good.
So it's going well.
Good.
Yeah. Little plug there.
Have you been doing it a little at a time, or have you been procrastinating it until now?
I get a chapter a week roughly, so I try and it's nice because I can work on it and then I send it back in and then she sends me another one, so it's a nice pace. So
Well, that's good.
do it a little bit at a time, not getting too overwhelmed.
Little dents to your ego in small, manageable amounts.
Well, I haven't had this is absolutely horrific and why on earth would you say this comment? So
Oh, good.
about myself.
Good.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's nice. So you've mostly agreed with the changes or been not cared about them?
Yeah, I'm really happy. Like, I don't feel like I'm an adept writer to begin with. I mean, I have the ideas, but putting it on paper is a different thing. So I welcome her edited side. Her edits. I welcome what she has to say. So as long as the ideas stay there, I'm happy for her to do her magic.
That every editor and copy editor loves to hear that.
Yes.
Just
Good.
but
It's all, that's my world. That is what is consuming me these days. So
Yeah, I bet.
that's good. Yes, I'm consumed by that on the other side, a lot of editing work. And so I'm always thinking, is this change I'm making really something that makes the copy better, or am I just doing it because copy editors are incredibly nitpicky and stupid things bother us? So I try to keep it to the helping the copy side, but there's some things that I
Well,
just
that's why you're there, though.
cannot let go. That is why I'm there. But you think as you go through this stuff. Now I don't have any one-on-one with the writers, but I think every time I make a change, it's like, how would I explain it to this person? And sometimes I feel like I should put comments in saying, I changed this because, but then is that obnoxious? Like I'm assuming they don't know it and it wasn't just a typo. So,
no, I get that. In my comments, I get the explanation as to why she did it, and I'm like, yeah, totally.
But probably not on the here's why I added a comma here level, right?
No, I do.
You do?
Yeah, she if she's making if she's adding a comment or a sentence, or sorry, if she's adding a sentence or
Uh-huh.
changing something or taking something out, she'll tell me why.
Yeah. Does that
Yeah.
get annoying, or are you happy to see that? At
No,
some
I'm
point, do you want to just
happy.
say, "Oh, just make it work. I
No,
don't need to see every comment."
no, I'm happy because then I feel like what? I just feel like, if I know what she's doing, then I'm happy.
Yeah,
I know what she's thinking.
that's true.
Right.
So
I always
You
think,
don't feel like it's an arbitrary, just
yeah,
I'm showing you
yeah,
who's boss kind of thing.
yeah,
yeah,
exactly. And I
I
have to
always
say, and I have to mention it, this is Kim Beauchamp at Brooks Publishing who I'm talking
hey,
about. She's
shout
a
out to
big
Nicole's
shout out.
Yay.
great editor. Yay! I will have to tweet her in one of my 150 tweets a week.
Very
Uh, I always think of the time that I was on the other side of this to some extent, not with the book that I wrote, but I contributed an essay to a collection and I did it for free, which I probably would never do it again. And it just got all the life edited out of it to the extent that I just couldn't read it and I couldn't recommend the book to anybody. And it really traumatized me. And I thought, I understood why they did it, but they did it gracelessly.
Mm.
And so, as an editor, you always want to think, I never want a writer to feel the way I felt when I looked at what they
Yeah.
had done. And I didn't get able to change or, approve changes or anything. It was just, we got the published book. Yay, look at my thing.
Well, what happened here?
That's not what, and it was about my kids, so it was really personal. And
Yeah.
so editing and responding to edits is fraught,
Yes.
as is our topic for this
That's
week.
right. Good job,
Speaking
Terry.
Constant niggling criticism.
Yes. Well, so I just came back from a good friend's son's bar mitzvah, and it was a lot of fun, but it really struck me how, like, modern family things have gotten for her. Because attending this event, there were divorced parents with their new partners, including gay and straight partners, those partners' kids. There were families with kids and parents of different races. There was a sister-in-law who hasn't been actually married into the family for like 20 years. But, she was there and so on. So I'm just wondering if that's what your family is starting to look like. I mean, me personally, it's not so much like that. Although, there's some little quirks, like I would say I'm closer to, my mother's cousin than I am, or one of her many, many cousins, than I am to my half siblings. Like there's
Mhm.
little tweaks like that. But for the most part, it's fairly traditional. What's going on in your family, Terry?
I feel like I had that years and years ago before it was
Before it was
cool.
cool.
I think I may have talked about this on the podcast before. I don't know. My dad was married before he was married to my mom, and I have a half sister who is, I think she turned 18 the summer I was born. So she went off to college shortly after I came home from the hospital. And so I never really had that close a relationship with her because she wasn't living in the house.
Right.
But we did have this sort of odd thing with my dad's first wife's sister was very, very sweet to my mom and me and would have us over and was really nice. And that was like, this is a relationship that would be difficult to explain.
Yes.
I called her aunt, but she was no relation to me, but she could not have been nicer. So there was this whole sort of unusual situation for me when I was growing up. We had a not typical family structure.
Mm-hmm.
But now, we're pretty to the extent that I am connected with extended family, it's pretty homogenous, I think.
How about you, Nicole?
Interesting. My mom's side is very cookie cutter. Aunts, uncles, the same spouses that they've had for 40 years. No remarriages. Cousins, pretty much the same. My dad's side of the family is a whole other story. It's a very modern type of family
Right.
with various cultures and backgrounds and relationships and but it's small. Both sides are small, so there's not a lot of extended people to make up the family unit. So yeah, I've had more to do with my mom's side of the family though. My dad's side of the family is they are very how do you call it? They their lifestyle is very different to ours. So
Well, and you also, I mean, right now you're living in a different country from almost everyone. But you also had an element of that when you were growing up too, right? Because a lot of your mom's family was not in Canada.
yeah, I didn't grow up near any extended family. I grew up, my dad's side of the family was all on the west coast of Canada in the Vancouver area. And I grew up north of Toronto, which is in central Canada. And then my mom's family is all in Australia. So I think I probably saw my grandparents and cousins maybe once every 5-6 years.
Right.
It was the interaction was very limited, and of course in those days you really only communicated by letter, and phone calls were non-existent because it was usually like $1 million a minute. So so we didn't have a lot of connection. I feel like these days my daughter, she's met some of the Australian family, and her and some of the second, third cousins keep in contact over social media, which is really cool because I didn't, that wasn't an option for us growing up. So I think it makes her feel more connected to family unit. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when I was growing up, I had extended family, walking distance, and we, at least on my mom's side, we had, I had an aunt and uncle and a cousin and my grandmother who were all living where we lived and right in our neighborhood. And my husband had the same thing. He had even more. I mean, he grew up with his grandmother, with his grandmother in his house, his aunt and uncle living right next door in like a twin house. Other aunts and uncles and cousins down the street, like they were everywhere. So I think he misses that, I mean, we definitely don't have that anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I was growing up, we had a pretty small family, but we had a bunch of cousins. It was my dad's cousin and her family and her children's children. And they would come over like twice a year. I think we would see them at Thanksgiving and at Christmas, maybe Easter. And maybe it was Easter and Christmas. Anyway, at holidays, we would see them. And then in between, we wouldn't see them at all. They didn't live that far away, but we didn't interact that much. But I remember the holidays as being a big deal, and we had them over, and there was quite a number of them, and that was fun. But I never had that experience of a day-to-day connection with your grandparent or your cousin. My mother's family, I grew up in Los Angeles area. My mother's family was in Chicago area. And my dad's parents were both deceased before, well, maybe not before I was born, but before I would remember. And so I never really my mom and I would take the train to Chicago every other year and spend a couple of weeks with her parents. So I would get a little bit of experience of them and my aunt and cousin who lived there too. But I really it seemed kind of idyllic to have like this built-in friendship with cousins. But that was not part of my growing up. And maybe just as well. Family feuds would have been part of it too. Live in our little...
Yeah, I always kind of wondered if my dad was okay with the fact that, he basically spent every single Christmas and holiday with my mom's family because they lived there and we never went. And, we never went away for Thanksgiving or Easter or Christmas. Everybody just came to us because we were right there. So, he seemed okay with it, but either he was really good at faking it
sometimes, I mean, it depends on what your relationship is with your family. Sometimes it's nice not to have that drama,
Yeah.
if, um, I probably the less said, the better on that. The family that came over when I was a kid, it was relatively drama free, maybe because it was a little bit removed. It wasn't, it was cousins and children of cousins as opposed to grandparents and siblings. So
Well, and
there
also
was less juice there.
it wasn't like a daily thing, right? I
Yes.
mean, it was
Yes.
reserved for special occasions.
And also all the adults got really drunk pretty quick, so so we kids could pretty much do whatever we wanted. So it was fun.
So how about now? I mean, is it important to you that your kids have relationships with extended family, or are you more of a friends are our family kind of group? I know, Nicole, you mentioned that it's nice that your daughter can be connected with some of her faraway cousins.
Yeah, I think there's extended family that would be nice to have around and have closer. But just growing up the way I did, because my mom came to Canada when she was 20, met my dad, she stayed here. So all of her family was in Australia, never came over, really rarely came over here. And then my dad didn't live near his family. So we grew up very much the four of us, and our family friends were our family.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we spent Christmases and Easters and all that kind of stuff with family, or sorry, with friends. So I think so. We have a bit of a mix of that now too, because we find ourselves in a similar situation than what my parents did now that we live here in the U.S.
Right.
And so we generally, reach out to friends, and they're part of our special events. So, yeah, I don't know. I guess I like the idea of having lived near family and grown up near family and cousins and whatnot, but I don't know. I'm so used to this way.
Right.
Maybe it would drive me nuts. I don't know. My husband's very much the same way. His family is all in Hungary, like both sides.
Wow.
He has outside of his immediate family members, he has no other relatives in North America.
Mm-hmm.
So he also grew up that way as well, which is kind of interesting. And so, yeah, both of us are pretty content to just be islands unto ourselves.
Yeah.
Hard.
Yeah. Well, the extended family on my side is all on the West Coast at this point, and it might as well be Hungary for as much as I keep in touch. I am just terrible, and I don't think it's deliberate. I think it's just for so long my life has been pretty much put one foot in front of the other and deal with the stuff that's immediately in front of you. Mm-hmm. And I never can seem to get past that to, the more distant things that I would like to do. I've been just a terrible sister and niece and aunt to people on my side of the family. And I know it, and I know I should do something about it, but there's always some much more immediate thing that needs to be tended to, which is not a good excuse, but just the way it is.
It's just life.
I don't quite know what to do about it. So I don't think any of them listen to this podcast, but if they do, hey,
I'm sorry.
Sorry I haven't been in touch. And on my husband's side of the family, his siblings live not that far away. They used to have a brother who lived in town, and we used to see him and his family all the time. And then they moved to the next state over, which isn't prohibitively far, and we still see them from time to time, but it's not the same. Mm-hmm. They're not going to the same schools. They're not, able to drop by. I'm not able to just drop a kid there if I need somebody to be someplace. Mm-hmm. I miss that. That was nice. Yeah. And so we still try to get together with them fairly regularly. But, I really see there's a degree to which I wish there was more family closeness, and there's a way in which family closeness feels kind of suffocating, and I'm glad when it's not there. So it's like, I'm happy, no way. And I wish my kids, I would like my kids to have relationships with their cousins. But it's hard when it's not real close. I mean, Facebook helps a lot, but it's not the same as being in the same place and going and doing things together. But that seems to be where we are now. I don't know. Do most people have large extended families nearby the way they used to?
I feel like where I live, there is quite a lot of it. Like people
Yeah.
live here and they haven't left. Do you know what I mean? Like, so a lot of people that I know have family. If they're not right here, then they're like in state or, they're close.
Yeah.
And in many ways, I do miss that. Like you said, I don't have family that can help me with kids or,
Right.
quickly drive over or just even to see a hockey game or come to it,
Yeah.
whatever. And I know they would love to, a lot of my family, and it doesn't work, just because of everyone's life and where they are. And, so yeah, I do kind of miss that. And, my kids only they had the one first cousin on my husband's side, and then, like I mentioned, I have the half siblings, and they have cousins there, but they really don't know them very well at all. So,
I really am a big. Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, I mean, years ago we even tried to have a third kid so that we would, because my kids didn't have any cousins. and they had one cousin who didn't live nearby, and we kind of knew we were going to be living near family, so we wanted to have another child just for that reason, but it didn't work out. But yeah, I mean, my family that isn't here is as involved as they can be, which is really nice.
Yeah. I'm really a big believer in you make your family with your friends. So and especially, as an adoptive family, we don't really lean really hard on the blood relative aspect of it. You can't, we've had family members try to do that, and it's like, stop. Right. So we feel like we're assembling our immediate and our extended family, based on choice and not biology. Yeah. So we definitely have some very close friends who we can call at any time, if somebody... when my son had a ruptured ulcer and was in the hospital at the middle of the night, and I called my friend out of bed to come drive an hour down to my house to watch my daughter. And, and she said, sure. They jumped in the car. Right. So that's family to me, and we're very, very lucky to have some friends that we can count on that way, which is not to say anything bad about family. It's just to some degree proximity and ability, I do feel a stronger bond with some people I am not related to than some people I am.
I remember when I was having my son, and I had only lived in this town for a year and didn't have any family, and I was really starting to freak out. Like, what am I going to do with my 2-year-old, with my other child when I need to go have this baby? And then a friend said to me, I'll take her whenever you need me to, because I know what your situation is, and I don't want you to worry about it. So that was awesome.
That's the stuff that's
kind of always been my kind of goal. We've moved around a lot, and I guess just from growing up, relying on ourselves, I've kind of just gotten used to us being, the main kind of support, but then reaching out to other people and creating kind of a network, right? Of people that you can call on or pick up. I always look at those school emergency cards that you have to fill out.
Oh, yeah.
It was always a gauge of what my situation was.
What am I doing here? Mine is still my friend who took my daughter when I had my baby. So
yeah.
Yeah, we have a nearby friend who I used, and then when her kids went in school, she used me. So that's been nice.
Wow. Well, good. It's interesting to know where people come from, because sometimes you assume that, everybody has all their family around them all the time, and I'm the only one that doesn't. But
well, the most important question about family and friends: can you count on them to listen to your podcast, or do they go, "Oh, that's nice that you do that," and never ask another question about it?
Pretty much.
And are you glad about that? Because that means you can talk about
Which is a good thing.
Yes, sometimes.
So, although next topic would be, I wouldn't mind them listening to. It's fairly.
Before we get into trouble, yes, let's move on to the speed round.
For our special Friday speed round, Amanda joined us for another topic that led to a very embarrassing and depressing conclusion about, and one that I'm sure would not get us in trouble with family members because it's pretty safe. So here's our speed round with Amanda.
So we all keep pretty busy with working and podcasting, of course. But I'm wondering if there are other things that you all do for hobbies. Do you have, Terri, yours maybe is sleeping on the couch. No, besides that, is there anything else?
I used to have a hobby, and my hobby was doing counted cross stitch, and I loved it. And I have many projects around the house that I did that I'm proud of. I have many half-finished projects in a bag, but I don't have the time or energy to do it anymore. It used to be that's what I would do while I watch TV. Now I work while I watch TV. I'm multitasking all the time. However, I will admit that I do have a little bit of a guilty pleasure, and I'm just going to call it a hobby. I would say that right now, at this point in time, my hobby is watching Hamilton-related and Lin-Manuel-related videos. I have possibly spent a fair amount of time when I was pretending to be working doing that. So, listening to dog bark is my hobby.
Somebody does not like that as a hobby.
Watching those videos and seeking them out has become a pastime. Let's just say.
That's a pastime for the internet age right there.
It is.
That's true.
How about you, Amanda?
I'd like to say traveling is a hobby, but I don't think it really counts if I only see airports and conference centers. I don't know. Like, I used to cook a lot. Cooking was a hobby for me, but I don't do as often. What I'm realizing now is I really need to find time and make time to have a hobby. I just, and figure out what that would be. I want to be the person who paints, I want to be the person who paints. I can't paint at all. I mean, I just can't, but I want to be that person who's sets up the easel and looks at the landscape and paints. But I'd be the person who sets up the easel, looks at the landscape and has blotches of color on the canvas.
But that's just abstract art.
That's what I'll do. My new hobby is going to be abstract art.
How about you, Nicole?
Well, since I haven't made any money off of it, I'm going to call my blog a hobby.
I was thinking we could all call this podcast a hobby for exactly that same reason.
Yeah, there you go.
But you did just write a book from your, you did get a book deal from your blog.
That's true.
I did actually. Okay, yeah, you're right. I did. So, if I had time, I would love to take up, this is really kind of out there, but I would love to take up lettering, like calligraphy.
Ooh.
That would be something that would be a guilty pleasure for me. And if I ever find extra time in my day, I think I would like to take courses in that. So maybe I can plan for that when I move into my retirement home.
There you go.
I can take calligraphy courses. But right now it is pretty much, podcasting, blogging, anything work related. Kind of.
We are a sad group of people. We are lovely and delightful and sad all at once.
We are busy. Catherine,
how
about you?
Your hobby?
Pull us out of this. Come up with a great hobby, Catherine. Redeem our group.
Well,
no pressure.
Aside from podcasting, I don't know. Podcasting, walking while listening to podcasts.
Check the theme.
The occasional crossword puzzle.
That's true. I do puzzles. I do the puzzles on the paper in the morning.
We should have made up fantastic things. We should have just made up fantastic things, right?
That would have been good.
On a future speed round, our fantasy hobbies.
There we go.
That's right.
Yeah.
And remember, you can hear a new speed round every Monday through Thursday, and Amanda is on all of those.
Yay. And now we're going to bring you some of the things we have read or seen or used recently that we want to shout out and share with you in a feature that we call Parenting Roundabout Roundup. Catherine, what do you have to share this week? I almost said what's making you happy this week, but that is copyright pop culture happy hour.
That's an homage to pop culture happy hour. I just wanted to mention, I periodically get stuff in the mail from companies that want to share their products with me. And I got from Nalgene, the company that they're known for their water bottles, right? The big, wide-mouthed, nice plastic water bottles. They came out with a lunchbox for this school year. And it's pretty nice. It's like a plastic clamshell style box, but it's nice and big. And then it has like this neoprene wrap that goes around it and makes a handle so that you could wash that separately. So that's kind of...
Is it dishwasher safe?
I think it is, or at least some of it. At least the one piece is. I always have an issue with putting lunch boxes in the dishwasher because you need it the next day, right?
Yes, that's...
I don't always have time to do that. But anyway, and it also comes with a reusable ice pack that fits inside it and makes like a divider between the different... So you can make two sections of the lunchbox. So anyway, it is cool, and it's from Nalgene. And my children felt that it was not cool enough for their age. So I gave it to a friend who has littler kids, and she was overjoyed. So there you go.
So will you find a link to that online?
I will,
so
you can
in that direction?
See what it looks like. Yep.
Cool. Nicole, what have you rounded up this week?
Well, I had something in mind, and I can't quite remember it. So, Terri, why don't you tell us what you've rounded up?
I will talk for a little while while Nicole scrambles to think of something. Well, we've had our little break from the Olympics now, and the Paralympics will be starting next Wednesday, September 7th?
Yes.
Yes. And we'll be on NBC SN, or possibly SH, as it is on my cable dial, but it's like 202 on my cable dial, somewhere in the further reaches. And it will also be live streamed on the Paralympics.org website. And I am really looking forward to watching some of that. I find the Paralympics to be really cool and deserving of a larger audience than they are going to get. But I think Catherine and I will be trying to live tweet the opening ceremonies on Wednesday, and we'll have information about that on our Twitter feed and on our website for you to take a look at. And just please, if you have a spare time, if you're looking for some procrastination on an afternoon, go on the Paralympics.org website and see what's streaming, or check the NBC schedule and see what they're showing. There will be a highlight on actual NBC one day at the end of it. For like 2 hours.
One whole day.
one whole 2 hour stretch.
2 hours
How
special.
many hours did they devote to the Olympics?
Oh boy.
Anyway, the only way to get more of this is for people to see what's there. So, let's try to do that.
Definitely.
And Nicole, have you thought of anything, or you want me to keep talking?
No, I just remembered what I was going to talk about.
Okay.
For those of you that travel a lot, or have family members that travel a lot, which happens in my case, I have been making a lot of use of an app lately called Flightview. Has anybody heard of that one?
No.
Oh, it's awesome. So you can view the flight in real time, and if you look at it, it comes up as a map, and it shows where the plane is that your loved one or family friend is on, and gives you an idea of real-time arrival and departure. And you can just keep track of what part of the world they're in. So this is kind of our go-to app. And my whole family uses it whenever one of us travels, because then we can get an idea of where in the world they are at that given moment. So so it's called Flightview. It's an app. that you can download. And yeah, I really like it.
Cool.
It's a good one.
That's good. I would be staring at it every second to say, okay, not hijacked yet. Not crashed yet.
Still in the air.
It's good. It's still in there. It's still there. Wait, it stopped. Why did it stop?
Oh,
Is it
the app
buffering?
crashed. Not the
I would have it
plane,
in the
just
dark
the
room
app.
with me.
Well, see, I actually started using it to fight that anxiety because when my husband traveled, I'd be like, did it take off? Where is it? Oh my God. So now this kind of feeds into my anxiety and I can say, oh, there he is.
That's
I see some very good suspense movies coming up employing that app. I hope they're shopping it around Hollywood.
Oh, that's funny.
All right. Well, you will give me a link of that we can put up on the notes for this episode on parentingroundabout.com.
Mhm.
And now, Catherine, you have an interview to share.
I do. So once a month or so, we talk with Meghan Corridan, who is an occupational therapist and a pediatric occupational therapist. And she is also the mom of a little girl who is about to start first grade. And so we talked about back to school, specifically some supplies and also organization, like how to try maybe to start the year off feeling a little bit organized and able to manage things. So let's hear now from Meghan. Hi, Meghan. So we're going to talk today about back to school and specifically about how to help kids get organized, get a little better organized when it comes to back to school time. So what are some of the things that you recommend for that?
Well, one of the big things I recommend, especially in the beginning of the school year, is establishing some kind of routine with your kids. I'm new to this whole thing, but my daughter is not very organized, and I'm trying my own ways with her to get her organized, especially when it comes to homework or bringing home papers. And all of those kinds of things. Because what ends up happening is I go into her backpack and everything is basically just shoved in there.
Yeah.
So I really want to establish some rules with her. And there are actually things that I often tell the kids that I work with to do. The folders, she's only going into first grade, so there aren't a lot of folders, but I found like she just had this one big folder that everything got shoved into. So this year I want to try and have subjects like the math, one folder for math, one for reading, and one for just like all of the handouts that teachers are sending home, field trip notices and stuff like that, and color coding them so she can, she knows exactly where everything goes. I want to foster some more independence in her. So that's one of the things that I'm gonna establish this year.
Great. Yeah, one of the things I have trouble with is my kid brings home, like you said, all these papers. They have a special folder that they designate at school this is your take-home folder. This is for what needs to go home. But he'll also just shove like homework that he's done with in there. And then I'm like, do we need to keep this? Like, why is it? Because the teachers send it home because they don't want it. And so then we have to have this whole discussion about whether this is something that we need to keep or can we, move along with it. So that's something that I'm hoping in this school year, maybe we can have, here's another folder for things that are coming home that nothing needs to be done. They don't need to be returned. They don't need to be worked on. They're not homework, but they're things that for whatever reason came home.
Right. For me, one of the things I have been keeping for Quinn is like a big, like one of those like folders that spread out. I forget what they're called, but it's one of those things that we just leave in our basement. And every few weeks we go through, and whether it be like a picture that she drew that she doesn't want to throw away or something, like she did really well on something at school. And so we have one of those for each grade. And then we sort of weed through it at the end of the year because a lot of it was great at one point, but now she doesn't really care quite so much about it. But it also helps clear out her big folders in her bag.
Mm-hmm.
And, she walks to school. It's not far, but, after some time, like all of those things just start to weigh you down.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I have a problem with my bigger kids where they don't want to use their locker, so they bring home everything. And then complain about how heavy their backpack is.
Yeah.
This is something that we're working on. But are there certain products or folders or, types of organization strategies? I think it definitely matters from kid to kid, but are there things that you have found that you recommend?
One thing I would recommend is basically having not Ziploc bags, but like clear storage bags in her backpack. So,
okay.
So you can find like all of your pencils are in one place, all of your crayons and coloring materials are in one place, and that way your kids can just look in their bag quickly and grab it. They don't have to dump everything out and remember which where everything is.
Mm-hmm.
I found that for my daughter, she had one big like pencil case, and it just kept it was overflowing by the end of the year because she just would keep shoving it, new things in it. And so this year I'm just going to get a handful of like plastic pencil cases that you can see so she can just grab them. But one thing I did last year was I had an identical pencil box at home. So it prevented her from having to carry it back and forth all the time or losing things. Because I just found that, like you've mentioned, like you get home and you're like, you sit down and things are missing. And for me, it was just, I don't get home. Our babysitter is the one who's helping her with her homework. And I don't want it to be like this stressful thing. So at home we have the same, things that she needs in school. So she doesn't necessarily even have to keep it in her backpack. That's one thing you can do, especially if your child's older and has a desk or a locker. But, sort of keeping everything separate for home and school and not over-cluttering her bag.
Yeah, I like the idea of the clear plastic so that they can see what they have, because it's so easy for a backpack or a pencil box or whatever container you're using to just become a black hole, and you'll never see what's in there ever again.
Yeah. And for me, I just like to know, I like to look in and see, she's running low on A, B, or C and be able to do it, but without dumping out her entire backpack, which is usually filled with, toys that she's brought to school or good bag things. So it does get a little bit crazy in there. Another thing I found really difficult for myself, and trying to help Quinn last year was, she would just get a piece of paper saying what assignments were due all week. And more often than I'd like to admit that paper got lost. I'd have to email her teacher. So one of the things I want to get for Quinn this year is sort of like an organizer. So we can look at that paper on the Monday when she gets it and write in every day what her assignments are, and sort of keep her a little bit more responsible for what she has to do. Because I think the workload is going to get increasingly more difficult throughout the year. And I feel like I want her to be responsible and know that, even if you forget that paper, you've got your assignment book and you can look at what's due and keep track of anything that, things that are going on in the classroom.
Right.
I think she'll enjoy that every week, having something to look forward to, knowing that she and I will sit down and do all of these things together.
Yeah, I think doing it together will definitely be helpful. And just, I know that for my kids, that has been an excuse they've tried in the past. Well, I don't know. I don't have that paper anymore, so I guess I can't do my homework. No, we're gonna find a way because that still has to be done. My kids' classes, now they do put a lot of stuff online. Their teachers will use Schoology is the thing that they use. I'm sure there's other options, but that helps that has a lot of reference material on it and information about what's going on. So we found that helpful. That's something I would definitely recommend to parents. If your school uses something like that, make sure you know how to use it, how to log in, because you're going to need it for sure.
That sounds great. I hope my school ends up doing something like that.
Yeah, it kind of even looks like Facebook. Like it's like this, it's supposed to be a social thing as well. Like the kids can post to each other and the teachers can post to the kids, or the librarian can have a little book discussion or whatever. But mostly we use it for, here's where they put a reference for the assignment that you're working on right now. So that's very helpful. What else will you be working on with Quinn this year, or do you recommend for kids who struggle with disorganization?
I feel like I'm just learning a lot of this stuff too. I think with a lot of the kids I work with, there has to be a lot of parent training. So if you yourself, if you find your child is disorganized, you sort of have to look back at yourself too and make sure that you're keeping your life a little bit organized for them too. So if a lot of times the parents will say, well, I can't help them because I lost my phone or something like that. So I think having something central, like whether it be like a big like a calendar that you can keep in your house, where everyone can sort of add to. So I find that a lot of the kids I work with, because most of the times they have a lot of therapies and stuff after school, a lot of their disorganization comes from not knowing their daily schedule. So I would also recommend at the beginning of every week having some kind of calendar that you can work on as a family. So you have therapy on this day, you have basketball practice on this day, mom and dad have PTA meetings on this day, who's going to help who with homework on those days, sort of put everything out there and have this big family central point to use as a reference to just get the week going. It's so easy for a week to get out of control, especially as your kids get older and are involved in a lot more. But we did that with ourselves last year because I found that I had meetings to go to and our babysitter wasn't going to be there one day and my husband had to go out of town. And like for Quinn, it was so much easier to have that little calendar to look at, to know like, oh, tonight so-and-so is coming and they're going to put me to bed and help me with my homework and do this and do that. I felt like it kept us a little bit more organized and on track for the week. And I think that has helped a lot of the families I work with to sort of do something very similar.
Great. I'm impressed that Quinn would look at it because I have trouble getting my high schooler to look at a calendar.
I think the novelty of it was fun and that like she could check things off and all of that. Yeah. It was definitely helpful. I'm not sure how accountable she'll be this year. But we always start the year off really well. And
exactly.
Start the year off really, really well, and then things can slide, and I'm completely guilty of that as well. But it's a nice thing to just for everyone to sort of be on the same page and remain organized. And if you have a good visual, it's much easier to keep things organized.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, great. Anything else you want to share about back to school organization before we get going for this month?
One tip that I read that I really, really liked, and it's not, I think it's, you can probably relate to it more. But a lot of my older kids on my caseload who, like you said, bringing back books back and forth and stuff, their lockers end up getting really messy and this and that. And one suggestion that I read that I really liked that I will try when Quinn's older is to make a map for your kid. So your kid has to draw a map of what their bookcase, I mean, not their bookcase, but their book bag is going to look like, where everything is going to go, or it can be the same thing with their locker. So if you have a kid who's just used to just throwing everything in, have them draw a picture of where everything should go. And it's their map that they have, one at school and one at home. And they have to follow that map to keep everything organized and sort of in place. And if they have that visual, so like instead of having a mirror in your locker, have that visual of what your locker should look like, where everything should go, and try and keep to it. I think you're less likely to lose things, and you're more likely to be able to work under pressure. So if you're late to school and you need to grab something and you're feeling flustered and disorganized, look at your map, grab it, and sort of keep going. So I just think that's a really good tip, especially for older kids.
Yeah, I like that because my son is going into middle school, and so this will be his first year actually using a locker. So I think that would be a great way to get him started. Since it'll be brand new, that could just be the way. This is how we organize. Here's how you do it. So that sounds great. Well, thank you very much. We'll have to report back on how this is all going next time we talk. Thanks a lot, Megan.
No problem. Have a great day.
And now for our final segment today, we're going to do a little shameless self-promotion, as we do every week, and direct you to some things on our sites that we think you should take a look at. Nicole, what do you have this week?
Well, I've been getting back into my Pinterest boards. So,
cool.
And Pinterest is usually very busy in the summer for teachers. And so I thought, I haven't paid much attention to it lately, so I better get on there and see what's going on. It's quite busy, lots of traffic. So check it out. And I've been adding to a little bit every day. And yeah, so it's under the inclusive class, and that's on Pinterest. And you'll see a wide variety of stuff on there for teachers and parents on how to teach and include different types of learners in the classroom.
Cool. Always necessary. I also have some things for parents to share. And this time of year for me was always prepare the giant pile of papers to hand to the teacher on the first day to explain how to handle my child time. And I have some things of that nature on my Mothers with Attitude website and something I call Parents Portfolio. I posted there some things that I've sent into class and some things that other people have shared that they have sent into class. So take a look there. You might find something that you can adapt to your present needs or future needs. There's a few things, letters to send in if certain reading material gets discussed in your class that might be problematic for your child's particular issues. So I will have the link up for that, but if you go to motherswithattitude.com and look for the section called Parents Portfolio, you can find them. And Catherine, what do you got this week?
I just wanted to mention something new that I published on Very Well. It's called 7 Ways to Raise a Physically Confident Kid. And we'll have the link. It was actually inspired by something Amanda did at understood.org, a piece about a hands-on activity for building your child's confidence. So I took that and spun it around to talk about physical confidence.
Nice.
And I did include a link in it to Amanda's piece. So if you're looking for that, you can find both of them. You can find that from within my story as well.
Cool. Now, is there a companion piece on how to be a physically confident adult? Because I missed all that early on.
Erin?
Yeah, then maybe I should do that next. Well, I do talk about in my piece about kids, I talk about how you have to be a role model and you have to try things.
That's
you have
where
to
it
be
falls
willing
apart.
to try things. That is the biggest thing.
And then when you fall on your face, your kid will say, you know what? I'm going to go read a
Or
book.
they might say, well, I can top that. I'm going to do it. I'm better than you.
Go step over your bleeding body and go on to become confident.
Oh, exactly.
Okay,
Well,
Nicole, take us out.
That's it for this week's episode of Parenting Roundabout. We hope you enjoyed it and that you'll join us every week. You can listen to podcast episodes on parentingroundabout.com or download it from iTunes. Please subscribe so you get all our podcasts and mini podcasts. You can also follow us on Twitter, where I am at Nicole Erdix, Terri is at Mamatude, Catherine is at About Family Fit, and Amanda is at Amanda Morin. You can also follow the podcast on Twitter at Roundabout Chat and look for us on Facebook, Pinterest, Tumblr, YouTube, and Instagram too. Best of all, stop by our blog at parentingroundabout.com and read recaps, find links on all the stories we mentioned, and please talk back in the comments. We love a good conversation. Thank you to John Moran for producing the podcast and providing our in and out music, and I wish everyone a great week.